before we get started, I'm going to talk about, these are just the two plays that I'm going to run the concepts, and I do want to talk about the blitz pickup rules because all the concepts I'm showing you today is a 5-man protection. And so from day one, I talked to the quarterback about understanding where the sixth rusher is going to be. And I believe that the inside is where I don't want the quarterback to ever feel pressure from the inside. I want the pressure to be from outside. So we, in our 5-man protection, we do a half slide, and the backside two are doing like a zone protection per se, where the guard and tackle are taking the inside and outside rusher, and then the outside is basically the quarterback's responsibility. And then tell the quarterback when there isn't a blitz or extra rusher, the progressions are off, and you just replace the blitz with a throw. So I'm sure a lot of you say the same thing, but that's when you're going through this. I always make sure I have a side left and right open and a middle, someone in that spot in all of my plays, so the quarterback knows where they can throw the ball when they're being blitzed. So when talking about my concepts, the first one I'm going to go over is the Y cross vertical pass, and it's a very common air raid, but the way I do it is a little different. It's only ran one way because the quarterback is right-handed, and it's easier progression-wise and throw-wise to do it that way. And also I find that it's easier for me, especially if you're a high school coach or a small college coach, you don't have 4 really good receivers. Sometimes you only have 1 or 2. This play is ran a lot, and my best 2 receivers, I put the best one at X and the second best at Y, so they're on the opposite side. And you'll see the pass, the basic concept is here. We have out of our 2x2, and the running back is always going to be running to the right because we want him to be on the opposite side of the W. And going back to the concept, you'll see that the W's route is called an occupy. It's called the occupy the flat defender. That's not the route. That's his responsibility. So I always get my players to understand why they are running what they're doing, because when we get to running them in different formations, that helps them learn like what routes to run. So I'll give you an example now. I'll stop the share on my screen, and you can see. Can everyone see the whiteboard now?
Yeah.
Okay, so the only person out of this that changes is the W. So I have the 2x2, the W is here, and I have them split the difference in 3x1 here. And the Y still has the same route. It's called an ISOM inside the SAM over the mic, and you want to get to 18 to 22. The reason why it's not for sure because you don't want to cover yourself up. And then this is called a take 2 because we want the safety to go with. So the quarterback is taking the drop, and the first eyes are on the safety. You'll know if he gets a clean release, you can take the shot. If the safety doesn't come over, the safety comes over the top, we then get here. And the W will then occupy this flat defender and end up in the same spot. And we have the 741. When they're running this route, you want to make sure that they really push forward to the post. I normally don't do steps with my routes, but this one I feel like you kind of have to, because if I told them to run a post curl, they'd run like 5 steps and then like 2, and then they'd be here and they'd be open too early. So the quarterback's read is the X, Y, back to here. The running back always runs a swing, and the W always runs the flat. Those are the 2 hot. So if you have a blitz coming off here, there's no progression. The quarterback's going to set his feet and throw behind the blitz to the shallow, or it'd be a out route, depending on what the formation is. And out of a bunch, because I like to run a lot of bunch too, out of the bunch, I always put the outside receiver on the point, because for me, I like to have bigger receivers on the outside that are better at getting off to like press. So a lot of times we'll press here, so I just like to keep them as the point man. And the Y and W are here. Still same rules. This time you have to take a wider departure. It ends up being like a wide curl to get to that same window. Because it's all about getting the quarterback to have the same progression and have the same area to throw. and you see that there's all areas of the field we are attacking. And so from day one, we have our vertical and horizontal pass concepts. I don't do a quick game and drop back game. All the horizontal plays, it's a shotgun, so there's no drop. It's just catch and set your feet and throw, and we work on that and getting our shoulders squared. And then for the vertical, we take a big three and then a hitch to get here, or a double hitch to get back to here. So that's the Y cross concept. And again, I can run it out of any 3x1 or 2x2. I can even, a formation that I like to do also out of this is a stack formation. So my Z and my X are always on the right and left, and the Y is always on the right if it's 2x2, and the W is on the left. So if we're in this formation, he still has the same route. He basically runs a slant and then returns. So that's basically getting to the occupy, the flat defender. Still runs the same route. Same route. So that's another way that we can get to the same concept. So for me, I'm not a big fan of running a lot of plays. I only run like 10 at the most, and that's if we are picking up the first 6. If like the first 6 that I've initially put in, if we're still struggling, like when I was in Finland, we didn't get to 7, 8, 9, 10. We just were running those 6 plays while I was there. And I like to be good at what we do, not just okay.
So you're reading this from left to right. Is that what you said, basically?
Yep. So the quarterback will take a 3, and when he catches the snap, it's a big 3, finding the safety. If the safety is going to sit in the middle and this guy's 1, we can take the shot. If the safety comes over, now it depends on your X receiver. If you got someone who's good at not slowing down to run a post, ideally, you want to be able to run like a high angle post. So if the safety is coming here, you climb it on top, and then you can take the safety with you. Because if you run it like this, then the safety can make the play on the ISOM route coming underneath. So I didn't have anyone at South Eugene to do this. So like we were like going into week 1, and I said, let's just run go balls. You don't have a coach not going to run a post, because they kept wanting to slow down and run their post across the field. But the post to run is taking the angle of the safety. If you want to take the point of the route is to take the safety with you. So again, that's why I put my best receiver here, because they win one-on-one matchups. You got to have someone at this spot to win one-on-one, and then someone that can get through to the middle of the field. It's a great 3rd and 8 play, 3rd and 12, anything in that range. So it's one of my favorite 3rd down and long calls. And then
before you go though, Coach, someone asked in the group, what was your cue for the Z? So I think he was referring to that the post curl, I guess is what you were.
Yeah, so the route is, I call it the 741, and that just reminds them the steps. So the Z will take 7 steps and then stick it and 4 to the post. And on the 4th step, it's not really 1, but just to make it sound like rhythm, I say 741. You then find a window. So you'll have like if they have too high safety, you'll have maybe a backer, because we have a guy here, so they'll have to honor that somehow. And then you kind of find the window right in here. It'll be about at 14 yards.
Okay. So if the go route, or the guy on the far left, your number 1 receiver, if he's occupied and then the cross isn't open, then you're working all the way to the right side of the field to that 741.
Right. And it sounds very difficult, but this is very quick read. Like we all know when you're going to get a go route, if it's ugly early, I tell my quarterbacks it's going to be ugly late. So don't keep your eyes on it. Really got to train them to get off of that, because this is going to be open more often than the go route most likely. But it is going to be hard to get to 3. So if you can get them to get to 3, I think that this play, even if you don't get them to get to 3, you're going to get this a lot, but that will make this play unstoppable, because a lot of times, like I had issues with them looking so far at this guy and trying to force it. But if you force it in here, just I heard a coach say this like 2 years ago, and it sticks to my brain in the coaching clinic. The only perfect defense to stop the spread offense is a 4-4 cover 4, but that's 12 guys on the field. So there's always going to be holes. So in a play like this, if it's all crowded here, don't throw it in that window because you're going to have a window here. They can't cover all this between the hashes and cover this little throwing angle here. So it might
And
sound like it's hard to get to number 3, but if you rep it and you work on it, one thing that I do is with my quarterbacks, I go through the progressions when we're installing them, and until they get good at doing the drops and the footwork and they call it out, we don't really move on to the next progression. So like I'll have them literally sit there and say, go, cross, curl, go, cross, curl in their footwork and snap it to themselves without even throwing the ball, just so they can get the footwork down and get lined up on making the right decision in the reads.
and which one do you find that comes open most often for you? Let's say you're getting middle of the field open, and you're working those progressions. Which one do you find to be most successful?
Definitely the crosser.
Yeah.
Just because they love throwing go routes, but it's not as safe, and it's hard to throw it on time, especially with high school kids. But this crossing route, I thought it was funny when we played Churchill, who was our league champion that year. It was like week 8, and I probably called this play like at least 15 times a game. And I told people, because we had like 6 PIs on this crossing route. I was like, they really told their guys that when we run this play, just hit the crosser because it wasn't going to be a completion. So we had a lot of PIs because our guy, and like I said, I put my second best receiver there. And it also was a guy that could be in the backfield, and he was a good athlete, so you can get across the middle. You don't want to put someone who's just a guy that you're trying to find a spot on the field to run this route. They got to be able to feel where to run around and get open. But yeah, it was funny that we had that many PIs against them. Any questions on this concept?
Yeah, if you guys do have questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself and then fire away. So,
Hey, Coach, are you allowing your crosser to adjust his route? Meaning, if I know you said something about don't run to cover yourself up. Are you allowing him to pull up early and sit in open grass?
No, I want him to continue running because the throw. So if say there's opening right here, right? The reason why I don't want him to stop is because then the quarterback, like I said, I want the quarterback to know where they're going to be on the field. And I want this throw to be basically like over here, or if it's here, it's going to be on the run, because this route's got to be full speed. And if you have him guessing and knowing and trying to stop, for me, I was telling Coach earlier that one of my first years coaching, we were trying so hard to get him to read and to stop, and it was hard to get that many people on the same page, especially at the high school level. So I just would rather them stay and continue and get to that side, get across the field, because they're also going to open it up for the post curl, the 741 back here. Okay. And it'll be easier throw for the quarterback to know that where they're going to be running to.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Yeah. On their way. Okay, another, I'll go back to my screen share. This is, so what I'm showing you guys today is my 2 favorite third down calls, whether it be a 3rd and short or a 3rd and long. This is my second favorite third down call.
did you share it? Share the screen. Oh, there you go.
There we go. So this is, I call it the seam vertical smash concept. Is, like I said, it's just a concept. We don't actually call it this name. I like the one-word terms. You guys can call it whatever you want. The reason why I didn't want to put my names on it is because I want you guys to take it and kind of find something that works for your kids, that if you do a no huddle that can match your signals or whatever. But this is basically, it's a different way of running smash, and I found a lot of success with it. So the diagonal sit by the outside receiver is here. I guess I have to probably stop the screen share for this one. Easier to just explain it. So the outside receiver that is on the same side, I'll start with that because it's the easiest one, is the running back. How I install it is by 2x2. So the guy on the side of the running back runs diagonal. So this is what it looks like on both sides. On this side, they're continuing running. It's basically like a clear out route. And you shouldn't have a quarterback that can make this throw, so don't let him try. But the X on the side away from the back's just running a swing. He's going to run diagonal 7 yards by 7 yards towards the sideline and sit. The W or slot all the way from, it's not just always the W, it could be the Y, has a 10-22 corner. At 10 yards, stick your inside foot into the ground and take an angle at 22 yards to the sideline. So that's where you get the smash. But actually the first read is the Y, what's called a bender route, or whoever's the slot on the side of the running back runs 10 yards and either runs a seam or a post, depending on if there's anyone on the tracks. If they're on his track to run a seam, stick his foot in the ground and cross face, and we have that post. If it's after the play is ran, if this backer flies here, this receiver now bolts behind upfield, and so the quarterback can throw there. That's the check down. So basically the quarterback's reading here to the corner to the seven-yard diagonal sit. Again, blitz pickup rules. We have the blitz here. If there's a blitz off the edge, it'll be here, or we could throw the corner route. But now I'll go back to my my presentation, and you guys can see the diagram I have drawn up. It's a little more detail for this, and then I'll show you different formations I can run it out of.
So it looks like you have a combination of single high and two high beater there, like your high low on the left side of the field, and then middle open for the right side of the field with that slot receiver. Is that right?
Correct. And if it's a single high safety, a lot of times, especially if it's cover one, which I don't know how much you guys see that, but I've seen that before. This safety will cheat over the corner route, and then you have a wide open seam too. So again, but yeah, too high, it's better to come here. Single high, if the corner is sitting, you have this route too. Oh, sorry. So this is what it looks like with defense on the field. Again, you see that the X on this diagram and the Y have options on their route, I guess you could say. So the biggest thing is when you're doing this, I always do RVAs when I'm installing my plays, routes versus air. I would have like a coach, or if you don't have enough coaches, you can have like the last person on the line being that person, the safety and the linebacker. So the X and the Y can get the right decision so they can get used to seeing defense. Don't just say, okay, this time we're running the post, this time we're running the seam, because it's not training them to properly read someone while they're running downfield. So that is one thing that I'll do. I'll do that kind of a read, but I don't do the sit or go on. I don't teach that.
And Z is if you like it. Is that what I'm assuming pre-snap? You're going to throw it if you like it?
Yeah, or it's like if they're like a DB falls down or something, but
yeah.
It's a very tough throw because the Z is running diagonal and he's running up the sideline. And usually if I call this, it's from like the left side of the field and we have the middle of the field to throw that post. Mm-hmm. So the smash is more in the boundary always. But again, if they can throw that, then that's an option. But I always tell them, unless you got an offer from the Pac-12, I don't want you to be throwing those on that play.
And then what's the angle of departure for X when he gets diagonal? He doesn't get the football. He sits, and then what's his angle from there?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the board for this. So this one, the backer will be here, and he might fly out. And so while he's sitting, if he sees them start to come, he then bolts behind him, basically across his face, getting vertical, diagonal. So the corner is cleared out and the DB. So we've had this where you get it about 11 yards and you try to get him upfield and knife, and it can be a big play. We've also had it go like 50 yards for a touchdown. So if you have, again, this is my best receiver. So if you have someone that can get open, then that's a good play to run for that as well. Because a lot of times, that even if the corner is open, high school quarterbacks aren't very good at getting it on time, throwing it there. So this is always going to be open. If the corner's open, usually this is open too, because they've taken all this. They're worried about the corner being open, and the backer's coming here to take this, but then he's going to come up behind it. Or if the corner is the person sitting here, then you just stay. You're occupying the corner. We don't want to run away from the corner. The only time you run up is if this backer comes out to guard you. So now, out of 3x1, it's a little different. Except for the fact that the rules are the same. The only thing that changes is the slots know that we're in 3x1. We aren't going to have two people running the same route. So the smash will be over here. And then he can bolt here. And then we have the 7 up the sideline and the swing. So it's not exactly the same, but it's just another way you can run it. It's not a way that I like to run it a lot, but I'm just going to give you guys different things. I know some people like to run everything out of every formation, but I have things that I like better out of 2x2 and out of 3x1 that I run. Another thing that you can do is I do like it out of empty. So if it's empty, the empty rules, these both outside people have sits, and then my S becomes here. Or if you want to put a receiver there, they then have the corner. So you have double corners, and you can have this. Basically will be a go probably, because a lot of times it's cover 0 and when you see empty. But again, it's just another thing that I can run out of multiple formations. I'll show you guys out of the stack formation how I run it, because that's one thing that I found a lot of success with when I was at South Eugene. I didn't put it in until mid-year, but I wish I would have put it in earlier, is running a stack formation. Even if you only stack to the boundary, it just gives the defense extra thing to worry about. And also it gives you more room on pass plays like this. And in the run game, it helps a lot too. So I'm a big fan of running the stack formations. So out of this, I would have, he's on the side of the back, he's got here. Now, this is supposed to be the bender. So I tell him to get to the hash, get vertical, and then you carry it on, or bends it here. Boom. Now it's more like the old school banana corner or shake route, whatever you want to call that. Here, again, you have to rep it. You can't just show them on the board and then go out and run it in the game. You have to spend time and work on it. So that's why I don't like having multiple plays. I like to just get really good at all the options. We can run the same play, so they don't have to learn different concepts. They're just learning how to run different, starting from a different spot, but ending up in the same spot.
And do you have your X on the stack? Does he sit, or does he do the same thing where linebacker's out, he's in essentially?
Yeah, the same thing. If the backer comes, boom, he can bolt upfield.
Okay.
The only time he doesn't bolt is when he's running this route. Then he just continues up. But every time it's a diagonal sit, he can bolt behind if it's the backer, not if it's the corner guarding him. I've had that before. I made a mistake of not being as clear as I should have been when I first put this in. And, it was covered by the corner, so I got open. I'm like, no, that's not how that works. So
yeah. Well,
when you
responsibility,
make sure you let them know that only when the backer comes out and guards them.
like that side, that concept looks like it's high low, right? So if he's going to occupy the corner, he's doing his job. That should open up the corner route behind him.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly right. Any questions on this concept or any formation you want to see?
Do you call it the same thing no matter what formation you get into?
Yep. So that's why when from day one I explained to them what their responsibilities are and where they're supposed to end up on the field, so that when I get in bunch, they just know the name of the concept and we get to it. And so they'll ask questions, but then you can just say, okay, I always try to get them to answer it though. I'll say like, well, where are you supposed to end up? And they'll say, over here in the flat. And so then they'll kind of know where they're supposed to go depending on what we've ran it out of.
Sweet. Yeah, I like that you can attack, single, middle closed and middle open with both these, the left side and the right side of the field.
Yeah. Any questions? All right, I will go back to the screen share and we will go on to the horizontal. Oops. So this is a spot concept for the air raid people. It's again, I didn't put the letters because it could change depending on where the running back is, but both the outside receivers run the same route and the slots. So when we're in 2x2, it's how we put it in, just like the last play. But number 3 receiver has a flat route. It could be the running back, or it could be the number 3 could be a slot, depending on what formation we are in. So here's the 2x2 look. And you'll see that the X and the Z are going and sitting. I call that a bounce route because they have the option to kind of break to the sideline once they've sat. And what I mean, I'll get this share play off and show you what I mean by that. So you don't want, a lot of times they'll want to go upfield first. I don't like that because it takes I just want them to get as fast as they can right now into the window, wherever the backers are, and sit. If you got 3 backers, then the X will come here. And then if they get like here or whatever, they come down. After they've been here and the corner has been cleared out, they can kind of break towards the sideline and try to get open. This is going to be a quick throw and decision, so a lot of times it doesn't get that far, but they have to be able to find the window and get open, because what I've seen when I put this in before is they'll like run too shallow, or they'll run to the linebacker and sit, or they'll go way too far. You just have to really harp on them getting across the field first and getting in the window, but naturally getting to 4 to 6 yards. We don't want them running a 2-yard route or anything further. So again, you can use cones. I use cones a lot to get them to learn where the yard markers are and where to sit also. It also helps the quarterback. And when you're running this corner route, so one thing that I do to get, I don't know if you guys have trouble with people getting rerouted, but that really kills this play. So this person cannot get jammed by this person. They got to be able to run their corner. So what I do with my receivers is every day we run pat and goes. And before practice, instead of just running it on air, I have the person who's going next. So I'm sure you guys all know what pat and goes are. You just throw the go route. Well, I have the person here stand over here, next person in line with their outside arm up, and I'm working a dip and rip right here, full speed, shoulder rotation, and then restacking here to get them used to that reroute 5 yards off, just getting that reps down on beating this, because it kills you. I run a lot of corners with my slots in it. I just hate it when they get everything clogged up. So I'm really harp on this every day with my pat and goes. It's a good way for me to install within something that is good for the quarterbacks to warm up and work on throwing and tracking the ball. And so it's just something that I do on top of the pat and goes to really emphasize that. I go back, I can't harp it enough that you can't let these slots get away with just giving up their chest and getting rerouted, because in any kind of offense, it's all about timing in the pass game, but especially in offense that you want the corner to, or the slots to be able to run corner routes, because it's you'll see on the film if the corner's jammed and the bounce is not there, and it kills the play.
So what's your progression then
So,
with this concept? Is it corner first, then the bounce? If he's not there, he's coming out?
so if it's 2x2, I tell the quarterbacks always, whenever we get to the line, they scan the field, no matter what formation we're in and what the defense is in, and they call the triangle. So I call it the triangle because you have the safeties here, and they have to find where they're at on the field. Linebackers, this triangle right here. So if you have an even field and it's 2x2, I would want to work the side the back's on, because that's the third receiver. The back is running the flat. So for the progression, it's the bounce, corner to the flat. And so the reason why is because the bounce will happen quicker. So if the bounce opens up, it's a horizontal, so the quarterback's not taking a drop. He's just catching and setting his feet. And say if he's decided to come to this side of the field, you don't have time to look both sides on my horizontal plays. You got to know pre-snap read an idea of what side you're going to go, and we're going to work that side. And so it's easy as it's here. And if this is clogged, the chances are the corner's open. But as you're squaring up to throw the corner and you see this corner bail, then you can throw the flat. So that's the progression on that one. But another thing I like to do with this play in particularly is run it inside the 10 or inside the 5 for like a 2-point conversion, or just if you want to throw down there, it's really good to throw. And I do it with motion. And so, and then one thing, I don't know if you caught this on my slide, but the corner routes, if you're running it in the goal line, so a big problem that you guys might see if you guys run corner routes down here is that the receiver wants to break it before the goal line, and then they don't have a very good angle to get to the back corner. So one thing that I harp on in our red zone RVAs is get 2 steps into the end zone before you make your break, and then take the angle to the corner. Then it's easier to throw for the quarterback and for the receiver to track the ball. And it sounds like it's very nitpicky, but you don't have a whole lot of room. So it's a small detail that can make a huge difference. And so I'll kind of show you from here what it's going to look like with the motion. So if I call motion, here and he snaps the ball before he gets to the slot, and he still's got the corner. He's got to clear the goal line, and he's going to the front pylon. And we got the flat here and the bounce. So again, if you see man coverage and everybody goes to this, you might have the back wide open in the backside here. But if you like the numbers here and they don't adjust very well, then we'll have an easy throw out of this for a 2-point conversion. It's one of my favorite 2-point conversion plays. It's also really good out of bunch. The only thing that will change now is that you have the outside receiver running a corner route. And then we have the slot here. Slot goes first. Y comes off. Corner. Sorry, the drawing is not very good. And then on the back side, this is what it looks like out of bunch. So I like it out of bunch. I like it out of 2x2 and then motioning to 3x1 to get because I also run a lot of jet sweep, fly sweep with my slots or outside people. and I pitch it to them. So they do a lot of that motion. So, and it gets into other stuff we do also. But whenever I do the jet motion, I always have the receiver either run a flat or a wheel or a bubble. So I don't do too much with that, but this just is enough to kind of show different things out of it. And also you can play action to it and run anything out of the jet motion too. Out of the stack formation, it also is good. This one is actually really good out of stack. He still has the sit. Sorry, it's more here. Boom, that corner route. And then here. So you got to make sure that if you run this out of stack, you don't have slow slot receivers. Have your faster people running it. So I know it's somewhat of a challenge if you only have like one or two fast guys, but they don't have to be fast, but they do have to be as fast off the ball. So it's easy to get slow receivers to get downfield if you just teach them a good stance and no false steps, and you can get them to be fast to 5. And football fast, they don't have to be like track speed, but just so they can get vertical and be an option on this play, because they are starting wider. They just have to be able to get off the ball and push vertical and take it. If it's all clogged here, they could get open too. And I've seen this is a good play out of stack.
And so obviously they're both releasing inside. Is the guy that's stacked behind? He's coming off that bounce route, his right. Ass to get vertical.
Off his hip, yeah. So that's why it's important that he can keep up with this person and push vertical, and that's where it's kind of like a rub action. But also, it's important that these outside receivers can get upfield too and get into the hole.
So if ball's in the middle of the field and you're in the stack formation, where are they aligned? Are they at the top of the numbers, or are they split the difference between hash and top of the numbers?
I let them kind of get, it depends on their speed and like where they're at as far as how they can run it. If they have to cut their split, they can, but I like them to be out on the numbers.
Okay.
Top of the numbers. Ideally, they can obviously adjust their split when they're running a different play, but I don't want them to make it too obvious and give them something to key on.
And I feel like the more you bring your splits down, you're losing leverage.
Yeah, and that too. And the main reason I run this formation is for the run game too. It gets the linebackers more wider, and you can hit inside zone a lot easier. But you got to have some pass plays out of it too.
And someone asked, how far are you taking that shake route inside before getting vertical?
So they just have to get 2 yards outside the hash is what I like their splits to be if it's the ball's in the middle of the field. But if they're like, say the ball's on the right side and they're on the field side, then they don't have to get all the way to the hash. They can kind of get like +4, +6. It's basically like kind of like the 741. It might be like 4 steps at an angle and then push vertical up to their landmark, which they might be able to break it a little sooner because they're not going to be running a 10-22. It might be more of like an 8-22 so they can get out there. You just have to kind of make the adjustment based off of what their talent and speed is. And
so balls in the middle, you want them at least or close to 2 yards outside the hash.
Yeah.
Now let's say you're getting corners that are pressing. Do you make any adjustments there as far, because obviously that's got to be some timing there with the guy underneath coming behind his ass. So do you switch that at all, where the guy stacked behind gets vertical first and then the bounce route comes underneath that, or you fight through it?
I have not done that yet. If I get press out of this, then I will just run what's my 4 verts is called Omaha, and skins is a switch. So I would just call that, and it would probably make it tough for them to press, and then we can run a lot of different stuff. So I haven't ran it enough to like say how we're going to do it against press.
So you check out of it?
No. So what I do is I do the no huddle and I get in a formation and I see how they adjust to it before I make the play call. So it's not always about going super fast. It's about getting set and running the next play. And also if we see some tendencies, like a lot of times, like when I was at South Eugene, we didn't get hardly pressed at all. But if we did, it was like consistently. It wasn't like once every 12 or 15, so I can see it coming. But yeah, if they were to press, I would probably say you just have to work releases with their X receiver and have them foot fire and get inside and be really steep getting inside. Because the thing I worry about if I have my slot running here and them running here, it's going to be too easy to cover. So a lot of times they'll have the corner and they'll take the inside, they'll take the outside. Well, okay, if this person is running inside and they go there and they're going here and they're going to come here and he pushes vertical and he's got this corner all turned around. So ideally, that's why I'd rather have the first receiver running here and this person running vertical, because it makes it a lot harder on the defense to guard this play. Any questions on this concept? All right, I'll go back to the share screen. Oh. So this is a stick. This is a 3x1 mainly concept. And again, it's really good for third and short. On the trip side, number 1 has an MOR. Number 2 has a 2-step speed out. Number 3 has a 6-yard and turnout stick route. And on the back side, and I'll show you on the board what this looks like, the single receiver runs, it's called a roll route. 3 steps vertical, and then it's rolling, you roll over the backer. And again, I'll show you on the board. The running back replaces the single receiver and gets vertical on a wheel route. And the quarterback's progression is the stick to the roll to the wheel, with the flat route being the hot for the blitz pickup, or you could even throw the stick behind the blitz. And then also the wheel is the blitz pickup on the other side. So I'll stop share play. So here's the diagram. And you'll see this route. The X in this diagram is a roll, because you'll have that backer right here a lot of times. If you don't have a backer, great. It's going to be wide open for the wheel. But when there is a backer, you get 3 steps vertical, and you kind of sneak behind and sit right here. So you don't know if it's going to be at 8 yards or 6 yards. The more he carries, the more open the wheel is going to be. If he's carrying, the chances are the corner is probably guarding this a little bit. So you might have to throw the wheel early. If he gets here and he can get over, you can throw him into this window, because a lot of times there's a big window here. But the stick and the progression on this one, I tell them if it's 3-over-3 defenders, we don't even work this side. If it's a wash, we go immediately to the back side, because numbers wise, they aren't going to have 3 over here, and they're not probably going to be playing zone. They're probably going to be playing man. And if the mic is guarding the running back, then a lot of times this person can't cover them on a wheel. Or you get a little rub too. If it's man, this turns into a slant. If you feel that the corner's running with you and there's nobody here, the chances are it's man to man. You can try to run into him, but you could get a penalty depending on your guys' refs, what they call with the rubs. But it turns into being a rub because they're running to guard the wheel. So the running back can either catch it on a line here or over there. It's never going to be caught right here, and it should not be caught right here. It's either going to be caught at the line of scrimmage on a line or over the shoulder about 10 yards down the field to 15. Now, The fun part about this is running it out of different formations. I run this formation a lot because people don't do it, and we can run all of our plays out of this. If we're running this play, basically almost all of the times it ends up being just a shallow by the S. But defenses can't figure it out. This person has to go outside. If they go inside, it's a very ugly play. So this is why it's called an MOR, mandatory outside release. Again, this is a catch and throw for the quarterback. No drops. It's a horizontal play. We're trying to get them to guard this way. We've already attacked them vertically. We're trying to do horizontal with these kind of plays. So again, this is a throw that in cover 2 you might hit, but I still would rather take these. I'm not trying to take a shot when I call this play. So sometimes one thing that I always try to do, and when I'm a coordinator, and I think all coordinators should think like this, if you can have your quarterback thinking like you on play calls, then you're doing a good job. And by like week 5 or 6, my quarterback was able to anticipate what my call was going to be depending on where the ball was on the field and what the situation was. So I would try to get your quarterback on the same page with your mind if you're the OC, and because in a situation like this, if it's 3rd and 3, and we have a wide open stick route, I don't want him to throw a 30-yard MOR when we could just get the first down and move the chains. So try to install it and make them understand it. Don't just have them learn it, but have them think like you do and what the why is behind it. And that will help a lot with their decision making when you're trying to call plays for them.
Do you turn that, I guess that shallow, do you turn that into a wheel route at all?
If it's going to be like a scramble situation, but again, just like I said earlier, with the horizontal plays, there's not a whole lot of time between when the quarterback catches the ball and gets the ball out. So if he's like, say he doesn't see anybody and he tries, or he gets a free release like on a nose or something that comes up and he rolls out, then they can turn it upfield. But we don't really ever get to the point where they have to turn upfield unless it's a scramble situation.
Okay.
Any other questions on that concept? You can run it out of motion. I forgot to show you guys that out of 2x2. It's a 3x1 play, but you can get to 2x2, or sorry, get to 3x1 out of 2x2. And all that I would do, I wouldn't want this person running the stick. So just like the play before, we got the MOR, motion jet, and it turns into this. Because I don't like doing the stopping on my jet motion, so I get them to run full speed, and the quarterback decides when to snap it. Just before the slot, come underneath, and basically run the same route. The reason why I call it, if I forgot to tell you guys about the 2-step out route. So my receivers have 3 breaks that we use in our offense. We have the square cut, which is a square turn, and everything we do is out of a 3-step breakdown, our feet. I don't think it's good to run a 5-step, but some people do. I've been able to train 7th graders to do a 3-step breakdown, so I think it's effective, and it's harder for them to know when you're going to break down if you do it in 3 steps. It's definitely, I think, impossible to do it out in 1 step, so that's why we really hammer the 3-step. But this is a square break. We have our speed turn, which is, again, 3 steps, but that first step is here, second step is here, third is there. So you run through your break, and that's what this route is. So it's your second step. So my receiver's inside foot is always up. So it'd be, if your left foot's up, it'd be right, left, and then you're basically taking an angle. Your second step's here and your third step's there to get to your spot. So this is when I say a speed turn. That's what I mean by that. So it's basically like 3 yards and ends up at being 4 to 5 yards out of bounds. And then the third break we have is the curl break at a 45-degree angle, again with the 3 steps. So I spend a lot of time with my receivers on practicing these 3 breaks because those are the 3 that we use in all of our our offense. So I forgot to show you guys, but that's what I meant by the two-step speed out that my slots are running on this play. Any questions on this concept? All right, so this is one last thing that I wanted to show you guys and go over is kind of like my thought process and how I attack the play calls on the game. So these are on my call sheet. I have must-haves in the first quarter section, and these are the 4 things that I always do. And I put it on my call sheet so I can get to it. Throw 5 perimeter screens, and that doesn't have to be like a called screen. In my run game, I have a bubble by number 3 if it's 3x1, or a quick screen to the outside on my run plays if we have the numbers. So if we do, we take it. And throughout the first quarter, I run an inside zone or outside zone quite a bit, and they get those screens. And I also do have, if we aren't getting the look to throw it, I do have a screen that I have in for the running back, like a quick swing where we have blockers, and that's just, even if it's a gain of 0 or a gain of 1, I want to get 5 of those in because that gets the linebackers running sideways. And if we are not hitting our inside zone in the first quarter, we're going to hit it by third or fourth quarter because our linebackers are running sideline to sideline instead of running downhill, filling my gaps, because we're a one-back offense and we have 5 blockers, and if we have downhill linebackers, it's going to be a long night. So I try to get the ball to the perimeter 5 times in the first quarter and take 2 shots downfield. That will get the safeties to not be able to fly in. If we have the safeties being a part of the run defense, then it's going to be hard for us to run the ball as well. So I do this to help our run game, not so much for the first quarter, but for the third quarter and fourth quarter, so we can continue to run the ball throughout the game. And I like to take a shot on the first play of the game, because if you get it, it's a huge momentum. And if not, the safeties aren't going to be coming down as often. And even if it's incompletion, it's 2nd and 10. I'm pretty confident with our run game that we can get 5 yards, or if I want to call a short pass or whatever, I'm confident that we can get the first down. Another thing that I do that I think is unique is I focus on attacking the boundary 3 times in the first quarter. And the reason why is because a lot of times teams, when they throw the ball, they want to throw it to the field, or when they run the ball, they run to the field. And so defensive coaches, they always slant to the field, or they are more focused on that. And again, going back to my philosophy, I like to make the defense worry about the entire field from sideline to sideline and end zone to end zone. And so I have to make sure I get to the point, even if it's throwing to the wheel out of the backfield, that's attacking the boundary. Anytime you put the ball into the boundary would be attacking the boundary in my eyes. So I just put that reminder on there for me to make sure that, okay, I do that. Because if I don't, I know that they're not going to have to guard the boundary the whole game. So I do that, and then I try to give each back 2 carries. And that's very hard, I think, especially if you're going 3 and out. But again, I try to establish the run and get my players rhythm in the first quarter, because I know that you have to run the ball too, and you won't be able to throw the ball all over the field if you can't get 4 or 5 yards of carry. So it gives them confidence to know that they know that the OC believes in them, and also it gives them a chance to get some contact and get involved in the game also. Because a lot of times you go all week practicing these plays, you want to run pass plays against their concepts, and people don't remember to run the ball often, and this kind of helps you with that too. So these are just some reminders that I put on my call sheet that I thought you guys might find helpful to attacking the field vertically and horizontally. But that's all that I have. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to sit here and answer questions for you guys and help you out.